at the heart of this debate lies a tension between what the public are or might be interested in and make judgments about, so we're told. That's one view of public interest, and what is properly to be regarded as a matter of public interest. Madam President, it's a pleasure to be here, but may I make it clear that I am not standing for election on any office of this esteemed union. Who are public figures? Well, politicians, of course. They make laws in Parliament, they decide if we're going to war, how much tax we're going to pay, and they make decisions that affect our lives in all sorts of ways. There are representatives, even if we didn't vote for them, and it's the job of the opposition and of the media to scrutinize them. But are they entitled to any private life at all? Now, you may think you know more than you need or want to know about Boris Johnson, or Matt Hancock, as we've heard this evening, who chose to expose himself both literally and metaphorically to CCTV cameras and on the television. Today, we learned that Michael Gove is in trouble because he accepted 2 tickets to Queen's Park Rangers football from a sponsor who had a COVID contract. I have to say it's a serious matter. We're entitled to know about it. But if you're going to bribe somebody, 2 tickets to QPR doesn't seem to me a very serious offer. Now, the proposers of the motion appear to be saying that public interest entitles us to know about anybody's private lives, whether they like it or not. They've rather elided the motion, elevated their right to judge above the right to make proper allowance for the individual's right to privacy. What is this business about the right to judge? I don't have the right to judge. What is something about your private life that you should be able to keep private even if you're in public life? This is something of a moving picture. When I was the age of most of you, politicians were grey, middle-aged men. We generally knew nothing about their private lives, but of course, some of them were gay, some, perhaps more than some, were unfaithful to their wives or husbands. Take Jeremy Thorpe, leader of the Liberal Party, ostensibly a married heterosexual. He was not, in fact, but to confess his orientation would have spelled the end of his career. In trying to suppress stories about his affair with Norman Scott, he ended up in court in trial for conspiracy to murder. Nowadays, he could have had a successful career as a politician and acknowledged his sexual orientation. We've heard about John Profumo already this evening, who had an affair with Christine Keeler, a much younger woman, and lied to the House of Commons about it, bringing his career to an end. There might have been some justification for exposing him on the basis that he shared his affections for Christine Keeler with an attaché from the Russian embassy, about whom there were some doubts as to his spying activities. But in fact, otherwise, I'm not convinced that the affair would have justified any intrusion into his private life if he had not lied to the House of Commons, which he wouldn't probably have done. Now, many MPs nowadays in senior positions are openly gay. So what? But suppose they did not want to acknowledge their orientation. Should we be entitled to know? I don't think so, nor to judge. A free press is a fundamental part of a healthy democracy. Journalists hold politicians to account and, if relevant, may be justified in referring to their private lives, but if relevant, and not always. The difficulty is, of course, in drawing the line. Historically, we had no law of privacy in this country. It was too amorphous a concept. We had the right to preserve our bodily integrity. If somebody assaulted you in any way, you could sue them, they could be prosecuted. Your home as an Englishman was your castle. You may remember from childhood, trespassers will be prosecuted. an inaccurate statement of the law, but still embodied a principle with which we're all familiar. Your reputation was protected, theoretically, by the law of defamation, if you could afford to sue anybody. But the law has now moved in the direction of recognizing the right to privacy, partly as a result of case law from the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. I am the chairman of the Independent Press Standards Organization, which is a body which purports to regulate the press. If you want to make a complaint against the press, you can do so. Most of the complaints are about inaccuracy. But we do have a provision in relation to privacy. It says this: everyone is entitled to respect for their private and family life, home, physical and mental health, and correspondence. Correspondence, rather old-fashioned concept nowadays, including digital communications. Editors will be expected to justify intrusions into an individual's private life, but in considering an individual's reasonable expectation of privacy, account will be taken of the complainant's own public disclosures of information and the extent to which the material complained about is already in the public domain or will become so. I think that's a pretty fair summary of the proper approach to the law of privacy. Now, politicians aren't the only people, of course, whom we're interested in. Captains of industry, as they used quaintly to be known, members of the royal family, film stars, musicians, sportsmen, influencers, TikTok stars, people who appear on reality television, and the like. All are entitled to privacy. But as is reflected in that cause, disclosures are relevant. Celebrities use the press and can't complain if the press comments on matters which might otherwise be considered off limits. But at the heart of this debate lies a tension between what the public are or might be interested in and make judgments about, so we're told. That's one view of public interest, and what is properly to be regarded as a matter of public interest. Our natural curiosity should give way to the rights of individuals to their privacy. This motion would deny them this basic human right. The protection of such a right is genuinely in the public interest. Thank you.